and then comes back in and tries to explain what they saw. Now, how easy is it going to be to explain something that's different than what we know? It might be pretty different to explain it. Like could you explain to go back into Mario, Donkey Kong world, which is a low resolution world, particularly around censorship, because if the AI or mistakes like you did, like with the guy there, it can create basically. It's like being censored in a different kind of way. Like before, it was like, oh, your YouTube video has been censored, for example, right? It's not there. Or Google will put your search results like way down in on page 10, so nobody will see it. But now, if the AI doesn't mention it, that's it. People aren't even going to bother going to page 2 or 3, let alone page 10.
Which then, what if the AI, forget even just people prompting it behind the scenes and doing nefarious shit, what happens when the AI is deciding for itself and decides like, yeah, you know what, I don't need to tell them that piece of information. And it becomes the slippery slope.
It's already doing that,
Yeah.
is my point.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty interesting. So I think we got into this whole discussion. We were talking about AI and NPC characters, and could there be other worlds?
You're doing great on the weaves today.
We're trying to remember where we.
Usually I got to bring people back, but you're right there.
Trying to get back to where we were talking about. Oh yeah, so that was the Bostrom NPC version, and then I mentioned the Matrix RPG version.
Yes,
and that is closer to what the world's religions have been telling us. And I got on. Okay, going back even further, I got on this because you had asked, what are the theories of what's outside the simulation? And I had mentioned ancestor simulations from Bostrom, so that it could be a future version of us. That said, there's no reason that it has to be. There's no reason it has to look like this world at all outside of the simulation. It could be an alien planet. I mean, when we create video games and we create video game worlds, we're creating them more and more realistic all the time. If you look at like the latest Unreal Engine videos, I mean, they're just amazing, right? You can see like how realistic they look. I even forget what number we're at now. Is it Unreal 5, I think, is the latest one. And if you look at some of those videos, they look so realistic. But at the same time, we put in other characters and things that are not, that don't exist outside. We have elves and dwarves and dragons and, all of these fantasy elements. Here, we can look at one of these videos, for example,
Pull this bad boy up. Joe's already got it.
Okay, so that's all a video game.
All right, so last year, we added several new features to the engine to support foliage rendering, and the Fortnite team used those features to ship Battle Royale Chapter 4.
Look at the detail.
At the same time, Jacob over there and the team at Quixel were experimenting with what's possible for photoreal foliage environments, as well as testing out the latest functionality that we've been building.
Yeah, they spend a lot lot of time on light
Jacob's
rays.
Here with us today in the Unreal
occlusion.
Editor. Let's explore the environment.
Now that's harder to do.
What
what we just saw there is harder to do than the AI prompting videos in a sense, because those videos are just generated once. This is an actual 3D world that you could move around in.
That's crazy. We're good, Joe.
Okay. Right. But we also can put other elements in our video games that don't exist in the physical world. So there's no reason that the world outside has to look like this world. It could be an alien planet, could be something completely different. Could also be very non-physical, right? It could be a non-physical type of reality, which again is closer to what the religions of the world have been telling us, that we exist as souls outside, and then we come into the body, we incarnate. And the metaphors they use, and this is one of the points that I make in this book and some of the papers that I've been writing.
Link in description below. Make sure everyone goes and grabs this. Yeah. Great cover, by the way.
It's a pretty cool cover. It was partly AI generated as well, which is
God damn it! Don't tell me that. That's when you lie.
Yeah,
okay?
I actually didn't know that it was at first. Yeah.
Just lie.
Okay, we can cut that part out. Right? Yeah. But I expanded the religion section a bit, and part of the reason was getting back to what I said way back when at the earlier part of the show, where I said that anybody who ends up having these experiences or starts a religion usually peeks outside the simulation. That's my terminology for it, and then comes back in and tries to explain what they saw. Now, how easy is it going to be to explain something that's different than what we know? It might be pretty different to explain it. Like, could you explain go back into Mario, Donkey Kong world, which is a low resolution world. I think there's a meme out there with the princess, or and Mario standing there saying, are we really in a simulation, or are we really in a video game? But so you have to use metaphors as a way to try to explain that which you saw, and this goes right back to Plato's cave. And most people know about Plato's cave, the allegory of the cave, where
can you remind people just?
Yeah, sure. So where basically Plato says reality is like we're in a cave and we're all chained to one side of the cave, let's say to that side. Okay, and the mouth of the cave might be over here where the door is, and there's some light coming in, but all we see are shadows against the wall. So I guess it's appropriate we have some movie scenes behind me, because those really are shadows that are projected onto the wall. And you can see in the picture there.
How are we doing, by the way, Deef, with Riz's eyes on the... Great. We're good? Okay, cool.
Okay, cool.
You're good. Go ahead.
Okay, so one guy decides to break the chains and go outside of the cave. And now most people have heard of the allegory of the cave because it's pretty popular, but they haven't actually read the original, Plato's original story or translation of it. But what happens to him, Plato calls him a philosopher. We could just as easily have called him a mystic, a scientist. He goes outside, and the first thing that happens is he's blinded by the light, because he grew up inside the cave. That's all he's ever known. So he can't see anything. It's just too bright. He's never seen the sun. But then once he gets used to it, he goes out and explores the world out there. And he realizes that what they were seeing were just shadows of people walking by. That wasn't reality that they were looking at. So he comes back in the cave and he tries to explain to the people, what he saw. And he's like, we're all chained against the wall. We need to undo our chains and we need to go out. And of course, the people say, no, you're crazy. What are you talking about? Which is kind of what our scientists say today to mystics, right? I see that a lot within the scientific and academic community. When people have these unexplained experiences, they're just like, nah, that's not real. You don't know what you're talking about.
How do you explain the unexplainable? It goes back to what you're saying.
Yeah, you have to use terminology and concepts that the people at the time can actually grasp. It's kind of like a few centuries ago, if you had told somebody Superman is actually an alien from the planet Krypton, they would look at you like, what are you talking about? They would have no context for any of those things. Superhero, planet, that's not Mars or Venus, right? But there wasn't a general knowledge that there are other solar systems.
So is this... I remember you and I had a chance to talk a little bit about religion last time, but it was quick. And what you were saying is that the special people of the various religions, if you look at Muhammad from Islam, or Mary/Jesus from Christianity, or Moses from Judaism and Christianity, they were given, it's like you used a better term than this, but it's like they got to cross over to whatever was out there and then bring it back to communicate to us in a way that we could understand, meaning they were, in the stories of the religion, gifted some sort of power to take the unexplainable from this world, understand it because of who they were, and then come back here, and instead of explaining this thing that has no conceivable reality to us, they would use parables and images that we could understand in our world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is, one of the key points about religion and religious scripture is at the heart, there is a mystical experience. So, about 50% of what comes up in any religious scripture probably has to do with the time that it was revealed. So there's a lot of cultural elements. But if you try to get to the cosmology, that says, what is this telling us about the world, the physical world and what's beyond the physical world, the here and the hereafter, right? That's terminology that we use in the Judeo-Christian tradition and Islam as well. There's heaven and hell, and some of those terms are almost exactly the same. Like the term for hell in Judaism and Islam is almost exactly the same, right? But so they have to explain it using metaphors, and so we have to keep that in mind. Now, what happens is that ultra-religious people say everything has to be taken literally in every single scripture. And then the academic and scientific people say, that's all a bunch of bullshit. None of that's real. We know God didn't create the world in 6 days. There was no worldwide flood, blah, 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 which maybe there was, but that's how they say it. But they use that to dismiss. But my point is, what if what they're telling us is something that they actually experienced and it's real, but because of the way that it's expressed for people of that time, and it would be completely dismissed today, because they couldn't say that the world is a video game back then. Or they couldn't say the world is a computer simulation. So what do they say? The world is a dream. The world is Maya, which translates to illusion. And so within the Hindu and Buddhist traditions, that's a term you'll hear a lot, which is Maya. I don't know how deep we got into this last time.
We talked about Maya a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, did we talk about Narada and Vishnu? Did I ever tell you that story?
I don't remember.
It's a good way. It's a good story because it ties to the Matrix.
That probably would have been towards the back end of the first hour if we did it, but I can't remember.
Yeah, probably didn't spend too much time on it. But so the story was Narada was, depending on which version you use, either a sage or a warrior. He's this kind of proud guy. And he goes to the god Vishnu and he says, I want to understand what Maya is. And Vishnu says, I can't tell you what Maya is. I have to show you. Sounds a lot like Morpheus, right? In the Matrix. And basically he says, here, step into this puddle of water. And Narada steps into the puddle of water. And then he basically becomes this little baby girl named Sushila, who's like a princess of some kingdom back in ancient India or something. And so, this baby girl grows up as a princess, ends up marrying some neighboring prince, lives her whole life. There's a huge war between her husband's kingdom and her father's kingdom, and they all basically kill each other. And so now she's sad because her brothers, her father, her husband, have all passed away. And so she's walking out of town. She's really sad, and she sees this pool of water, and she steps in the pool of water. And then suddenly she's transformed back into, let's say, the warrior Narada, who's standing next to Vishnu. And Vishnu says, that is what Maya is. You just experienced it. Right? It was the power of illusion. And it sometimes translates as a carefully crafted illusion. And so that is also a metaphor, right? These stories aren't trying to say he physically needs to step in a pool of water, but it's the metaphor that gets used. In the Greek traditions, they have lethe, which is the river of forgetfulness. And you cross the river of forgetfulness when you come in and you incarnate. And in the Chinese traditions, they have Meng Po, who's the goddess of forgetfulness.
And again, these come from somewhere. These ideas came from somewhere. They originated somewhere. Could have been someone totally bullshitting, like, hey, let me just tell you about this. Or it could be based in some sort of, peripheral understanding of like a multiverse reality or something of the sort.
Yeah, exactly. Something outside of, the physical reality. I think that the term I use was like a theophany is a term that religious scholars use. It's when the divine interrupts your life and then you have to pay attention to it, basically.
Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.